Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Record.
This week on the show, the 8mm camera,
Weird sports around the globe.
Detective Pikachu, and other really bad video game films. I'm Ashley Dryhurst.
And I'm Sophie Evans.
Now, guys, don't forget to follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Off the Record LT. And if you want to catch up on old episodes, you can through our Facebook and YouTube, Upstart Magazine. So, Sophie, how's your week been?
Well, on Saturday, I have a friend who's come here from Germany, and I took him to his very first AFL game, and it was quite interesting, actually.
Who played?
Collingwood and St Kilda. I'm a Collingwood fan, so I sort of joined the black and white masses.
Was it good?
It was a good game. It was very sort of like close, and I was just sort of like, well, they keep scoring a goal, and now I'm only 1 point behind.
Yeah, it can be like that at footy games.
I got really stressed when it was very close, but then they kicked some goals. I'm like, you know what? Actually, I'm good. I'm happy now. My friend just thought it was funny how the audience like reacts so well to everything. There's a lot of ahs and oohs and the huge amounts of cheering every time someone scores a goal.
Yeah, and a bit of a disappointment to St Kilda. I think it's a 5-game loss streak now.
Yeah, sorry to add to that.
Yeah, harsh. Cool. So what's happening in the news today?
Making news this week. Following their election victory last Saturday, the Liberal Party is set to secure a majority government. The Liberals have won several tight electorates, including the Victorian key seat of Chisholm. The Coalition has won 77 seats in the House of Representatives, while the Labor Party has won just 68. The ALP is still without a leader after Bill Shorten's resignation. 3 Victorian children have died this year due to the flu, taking the Victorian flu death toll up to 26. While the other 23 deaths are older aged care residents, there are fears that this flu season will be worse than the previous years. Compared to last year, the amount of flu cases has risen by 8,000 at this time of year. Victorian health authorities are urging citizens to get the flu vaccine. Just months after legalising abortion, the Republic of Ireland has proposed to make abortions free for all women. Ireland's Health Minister Simon Harris has said that the new legislation will make the procedure free. The legislation will reach Parliament by October and, if passed, will take effect in 2020. Abortions were legalised in Ireland last year after a historic vote led to a landslide victory in favour. And Sandringham commuters are set to face delays of up to an hour due to the construction of the Metro tunnel entrance. Buses will replace trains until the 9th of June as construction crews pour around 400 cubic metres of concrete to build the foundations of the tunnel. The $11 billion project is estimated to save Sandringham commuters an extra 20 minutes each day. As much as it's great to make transport easier, the buses replacing trains thing, it really gives you a headache after a while.
But I think you really have to look at the future.
Yeah.
You complain now, but in 20 minutes extra, that means 20 minutes more sleep, which I'm all down for. I think it will be good in the end.
Well, for context, I am a Sandringham line commuter, so I've been avoiding it by driving at the moment, but it's... basically, my heart kind of goes out to people who are on the Frankston-Pakenham lines. They've copped the most of it, and having to take the line just once, I saw how much of a nightmare it was. So hopefully, we'll get it all done, and make things so much easier.
It is what people ask for, better commuting in Melbourne, and they're going to get it, and hopefully they're okay with the time it takes to construct. Yeah.
And it's very sad, I've never really heard of, but now there are like young children dying from the flu. Normally they're prioritised vaccine-wise.
Yeah. When it comes to the flu, people dying, it happens. It's sad. It does. It happens. But I don't think it's that much to worry about. I think just with word of mouth and stuff like that, it's pretty much normal. It sucked about the 3 kids that passed away. But what was the other 26 of them? Yeah, they're all old age care. I don't mean to put it out like that, but that's how it usually happens. People usually pass away because they're already dealing with other things. I think we're pretty safe from the flu. Have you got your flu shot?
I have got mine. Back to normal, can move the arm up and down again, doesn't hurt anymore, but people absolutely do get it. It took me a little while to get mine because I'm sort of out of the age demographic where it's like because normally they make sure that children and the elderly have it first. But yeah, now they've finally got mine, and like it's not that bad. It's like, sure, your arm hurts a little bit and you might like cough a little, but like it's totally worth it.
Personally, I don't think you need it, but that's up to you.
I think you do need it. Anyway.
Now, guys, more technology or retro technology has come back into the industry with the 8mm camera. Here's Lewis to tell us more.
There's something about the look of vintage video and photography. Sure, it lacks the stunning clarity and polish that modern-day cameras are able to achieve, but the feelings that it inspires certainly make up for it. And it seems it's currently a very popular trend to set about mimicking, or by genuine means creating videos in this old-school style, as you can see in travel vlogs, or music videos by artists such as Beyoncé, Drake, or Lana Del Rey. And now the sheep that I am, I figured, hey, why not join them? So I got my hands on an old Super 8 camera. A home video camera that had its heyday in the 60s until dying out in the late 70s. But unfortunately, just from holding this, I'm already way too in over my head. So I'm going to go have a chat with video tech guru Richard to see if Super 8 is something super great, or something that I should be showing some super hate. Hey Richard, now what is Super 8?
Super 8, well, it's just a version of a film format. So the fact that it's Super 8 is no different to any other film format really, but it was available for domestic use, and that was what made it super for everyone else.
Why do you think that there is this current appeal to recreate the style, or to even shoot in Super 8 in this day and age?
Because people are hippies. There's lots of people out there that just like the idea of doing things in a retro way. The Olympics are going to be shot in 8K from Japan, so realistically we have moved on. So it's more about the feel of it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Richard. Cheers.
No worries. Thanks.
Now, with this knowledge, let's go about purchasing some film to shoot on. Looking at around $6. Okay, where can I have it developed? It seems that the only place in Australia is in Daylesford. It's a bit out of my way from Melbourne, but sure. Oh, although I've just learnt that my camera won't work either. It seems there's something wrong with the battery compartment. I'm afraid I won't be shooting anything on Super 8 anytime soon. My journey should end here, but I do still have some hope. The power of editing and effects. If you can't make it, then fake it. And so, that's what you're seeing here. Simple effects over simple smartphone camera footage added later. Or you can simply get a cheap smartphone app, like what was done for the Oscar-winning documentary Searching for Sugar Man. So that's got to be at least a quarter of the effort and an eighth the cost for a result that looks, well, just as good, I suppose. Our style may be in the past, but we are fortunate to still be in the future. This has been Lewis Freeman, reporting for Off the Record.
Thanks for that, Lewis.
Yeah, thanks so much. What do you think of digital, like non-digital media, like the 8mm camera?
It's kind of cool in a sort of aesthetic-y kind of way, but I don't know. You've got more about it to say than I do.
I just think it's a bit silly. Along with like the Polaroid cameras, like it's a dead media.
Really?
Yeah, like what's wrong with pursuing and going further? You know?
Yeah, like we can go up, but there's not a lot with. Yeah, I don't know. It's haven't you seen all the hipsters around with their?
With technology, like Lewis pointed out, we could use our iPhones, use a couple of filters, and it's still going to look the same. But you've got it's much more accessible. You got somewhere you can easily store all the footage that you've taken. Editing is a billion times easier.
That's true.
I think it's a dead. I think all solid media is pretty dead at this point.
You're on the future side.
Yeah, I am. What's wrong with going forward?
No, there's nothing wrong with going forward. It's kind of like it's sort of like a cute sort of like vintage thing. Not necessarily like a mainstream, like, you know, all media should go back to being like this. It's just sort of like nice every once in a while.
Yeah, fair enough.
Moving over to Sport Weekly, Cody introduces Jack and Lakshmi to some weird sports around the globe.
Hey guys, Jack here. Last week we discussed Eurovision. This led us to talk about some other weird sports.
Have you ever heard of Bo Tayoshi?
No, never heard of it.
No.
So essentially what it is 150 people.
Yeah.
The main aim of the game is to knock down a pole. You have 75 defenders who all scatter around this pole. You got to make sure that you don't, topple it over, and then you got 75 attackers who just rush in. Literally how it starts is you just have guys colliding into each other like it's a war.
How do you train for this? Like, how do you, 75 guys, if you have spare time, we need to run a scrimmage if you're free. Like,
Yeah.
how do you do this?
So it's very interesting. It's only run at the National Defense Academy in Japan. Basically, the way to win is the pole needs to go down 30 degrees within a certain time.
Wow.
So the other team has to knock down the pole.
How big is this pole? Because I think it'd be really funny if there was this little tiny toothpick and everyone was defending.
It's
this
about
tiny-
10 to 15 feet. The next one now, this is called the Cooper's Hill Cheese Rolling and Wake. So what the main aim of the sport is that you get a block of cheese and you roll it down a very steep hill, and a group of like 100 people chase it.
So they're in blocks and not wheel. Are they in wheels?
They in like a wheel
Okay,
block
they're
of
on
cheese,
wheels.
not like a little small block of cheese. That'd be very hard. So yeah, the hill is incredibly steep. If you ever watch it, literally within 5 seconds you have people falling down. You would think that there would be like this big massive prize. You only win a wheel of cheese.
Oh,
I
wow.
was just about to ask,
Yeah.
do you win cheese at the end of it?
You literally win the wheel of cheese. The way to win is either grab the cheese or get over the finish line first.
I suppose if I'm going to roll a massive block of cheese down a hill,
Yeah.
I'd want to keep it.
Yeah, because it's not just cheese at that point, it's winner's cheese.
I don't think you could put that on your resume. A cheese roller.
I mean, I would say I competed in it, It proved I have heart and determination to get that cheese.
And a lot of free time.
Yeah. I already got the cheese, now let's get this bread. This is a very new, intriguing sport. It's called competitive slapping. It's, as far as I know, only in Russia.
Yeah.
And the way that you have to win is by either slapping a person so hard you knock them out, or slapping a person so hard that they give up. There's a table in between. You're on two sides of the table, and you take turns slapping each other.
Do you think there's like a technique to it, or do you think there's
There-
just slap them as hard as you possibly can?
There actually is a very interesting technique a lot of people use where, so some guys literally just slap as hard as they can, assuming that will work. There is Dumplin, who is the superstar of the sport. He was doing a little technique where he would slap really hard, like maybe 2 or 3 times, and then the next one he'd slap so softly to kind of like lull them into a false sense of security. And then the next one, like straight away, quick, bam. And like it worked pretty well, He got out a couple of people with it. He won the championship in the end.
That's it for Sports Weekly this week. Back to you guys.
Thank you so much for that, guys. Very weird indeed.
Yeah. Cheese whirling looks like an incredible sport.
Anyway, joining us in the studio today, we have Dr. Beck Strating, a La Trobe Senior Politics Lecturer. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
you. Now, can you just give us a quick background of yourself so we have an idea of how you got into the position you're in?
Yep, no problem. I'm a senior lecturer in politics and international relations. I research and study Australian politics, particularly in the area of representation and rhetoric. So how politicians and how people in politics create certain narratives and tell stories about politics. But I do tend to focus a lot more on Australian foreign policy. So one of the things that I'm interested in is how election results and governments affect Australia's standing in international politics.
That's really interesting because I have my own sort of opinion on when it comes to Australia's politics, and I feel like we kind of just beta ourselves into this position where we get looked after by other countries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So do you feel like we perhaps ride on the United States' coat's tail a little bit too much? Is that where you're coming from?
That, and I think other countries when it comes to like trade with like China
with
and stuff
China,
like that.
Yep.
Would you agree with that?
I think that Australia at the moment is really struggling to navigate its relationships and manage its relationships with the two great powers in our region, China and the United States. But I also think that the idea that we don't have an independent foreign policy is a little bit misguided as well, because we are quite independent as well. We try to chart, a course through regional politics that has an Australian character and an Australian flavour. It's just that we are in a bind. We have the United States as our number one security guarantor and alliance partner, and China, our number one trading partner, are increasingly in competition in international relations, and Australia just, I think, finds that very difficult situation to be in.
Yeah. Now, throwing back more to what's relevant in Australia right now.
Yep.
The election, you were talking about stories and stuff like that. How do you feel about the Scott Morrison winning the unwinnable election?
Well, I think that actually has a lot to do with narratives and what cuts through to the electorate. And one of the really dominant narratives in Australian politics, in electoral politics, is this idea that the Liberals are sort of the natural home of government in Australia, and that they are the responsible economic managers. And it's really come from the sort of the Howard era, this idea that the Liberals can be trusted to take care of the budget, whereas Labor are sort of profligate spenders and who will, create big debt and that sort of those sorts of stories around the economy. So I think that's still a really dominant perception that's held by people across various parts of Australia, and that it's one that Labor, I think, kind of struggles to respond to.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are some other sorts of economic stories as well about the franking credits and the what the various changes to tax might do to people that are kind of more micro stories. But the big picture, I think, is this idea that Labor struggles to really push back against this idea of the Liberals as being the responsible economic managers. And just on that, in 2007, Kevin Rudd really ran on this campaign of, I'm a responsible economic manager too, like a kind of Howard Light story. Whereas this election is really important because Labor put out a lot of policies and tried to kind of push away a little bit from that idea that Rudd presented in 2007.
Now, in Victoria, we're quite Labor focused, and we follow that sort of party. For anyone a little bit unsure on how everything works now that the Liberals have like the majority of the seats, how does it affect? How does this whole election affect the way that like the Labor side of people? How is it going to affect them? What do they have much to be worried about? Are they freaking out a little bit too much?
Well, it depends on your perspective, because there is this idea out there at the moment that the coalition has secured this massive victory. But really that's just about expectations. The expectation was that Labor would win, and they didn't win, and so it makes it look like this was a resounding victory. But in fact, we've got maybe 77 seats, which in a 151-seat parliament is really only a one-seat majority. They might get up to 78. In 2016, the then Turnbull government won with a 76-seat majority as well. The reality is things haven't changed very much. We forget that in 2016, Turnbull started with a majority government that turned into a minority government as there were by-elections, a Wentworth by-election, and defections as people left. So it doesn't take very much with a slim majority for things to kind of fall apart a little bit. So there's that sort of, that kind of perspective where, we need to look at what's actually changed in terms of parliamentary representation. And actually it hasn't really changed all that much. I mean, there is a little bit of a victory there, but it's not a huge sweeping binding kind of mandate, even though people are presenting it like that. But the other issue, the more crucial issue, what does it mean for the issues that people really care about? Because I don't think it's just about, whether you're left or whether you're right. It's really about what does this mean for climate change? What does this mean for asylum seekers?
Yeah.
But in my view, those issues aren't going anywhere. Climate change in particular is something that the coalition itself struggles to deal with within the party. There are those in the more moderate wing, for example, Dave Sharma, who just got elected in Wentworth as a Liberal, who really want action. Arthur Sinodinos has been saying we need to look to renewables, and he's sort of a stalwart, like a Liberal, senior Liberal operator. And they're going, we need to look to renewables, but then you've got the other sort of wing that's like, no, we need to look to coal. And so this is not an issue, I don't think, that's going to go away.
Yeah.
The real issue, I think, is that we're not really sure what the coalition is going to do for 3 years, because the election campaign was largely run was largely geared around Labor's policy platform.
Yeah.
And so the real question for the future of Australian elections is whether or not a party is going to be sort of brave enough to put forward a full suite of policies when they can just be kind of torn to shreds.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a mystery.
It's definitely
what's
an
going
interesting
to happen.
thing we need to follow.
Here's the question.
Questions we'll look forward to in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much for sitting down with us today to
No
talk
problem.
about it.
My pleasure.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
having me.
Thank you so much. Now, guys, we're heading over to the Culture Corner, where we cover Detective Pikachu and other bad video game films. Hey guys, welcome to the Culture Corner. I'm Matthias.
I'm Dorito.
Here on the Culture Corner, we cover pop culture news and game reviews. A couple of weeks ago, guys, Detective Pikachu hit the cinemas. Detective Pikachu is Warner Brothers' adaptation of one of the largest gaming franchises ever, Pokemon.
Pokemon took the entire world by storm in 1996 with the Game Boy release of Pokemon Red and Blue. It was so popular at the time that it wasn't long before it was turned into an anime series that's still running to this day.
When the trailer for the film first came out, people were skeptical. There's never really been a good movie adaptation of a video game. I haven't seen it, but
I have. Overall, it was a good film. It was pretty good. It just, as a video game film, it did well to portray what it needed to, but there's so much more that it can be explored with video games and movies alike.
would you say it's the best adaptation of a video game so far?
Yes, I would say it's the best one, but I think that that's sort of a bad thing in a way, because I don't think it was that outstanding. At the current moment, it is the best film adaptation of a game so far.
But what you're saying is...
There's so much further that we can go.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, pretty much. Like, the thing is, it's barely even grasped the potential of what I think a video game can be made into a film.
And it raises a really important question. Why is there no such thing as a good video game adaptation to film?
Now, there are many, many reasons as to why this could be the case, but I want to ask you, Atheos, why do you think personally that the transition between game to movie isn't as efficient as movie to game?
Now, I wouldn't say that I'm a professional at all when it comes to this, but here's how I've taken it. If I watch a film, which I really enjoy, let's use Lord of the Rings as an example. Watch Lord of the Rings, and I just thought, I want to do that. I want to be a part of that. And the Lord of the Rings games allows me to be Legolas. It allows me to be a hobbit running away from the knight. It's that sort of stuff. Whereas if you go from a video game into a film, I'll use Prince of Persia as the example. You play the game how you want to play it, and you put your own personality into the main character. Now, when someone tries to adapt that to a film, and they do it differently to how you do it, it kind of makes you feel disconnected from the main character. Now, Dorito, what game would you like to see turn into a film?
Game into a film. I'd have to go with the Metroid series, because at that point, Metroid, and for those of you who don't know, that's the Samus character from Nintendo. It's quite alien film-like, so there already sort of has a pathway that it could follow in terms of a thriller / horror type film.
And I think it would really fit into the whole powerful women being the central of films at the moment. Now guys, what movie would you turn into a game? And what game would you like to see as a movie? Let us know on our Twitter at OTR Culture. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've been Atheos.
And I've been Dorito.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for that, guys. Coming up next, we have Lakshmi in the studio to discuss what's happening in Melbourne this week. Welcome, Lakshmi.
Welcome.
Hello. So it's something a little bit different this week because we're getting to exams. We want to stimulate the thinking.
A lot of people are dreading it.
Yeah, a lot of people are dreading it, but have no fear because this week is Melbourne Knowledge Week.
Knowledge Week.
Yeah, so that's happening around Melbourne, mainly in the city, from the 20th to 26th this Sunday. Did you know this is actually in its 10th year?
I didn't.
Something I'm willing to learn.
Yeah? Yeah, well, I guess it's common knowledge now.
Oh, no.
Was that it?
I scripted that, I'll be honest. I scripted that one. So it's a week celebrating bold thinking and innovation. So there's workshops, there's lunchtime talks at the Wheeler Centre about the future, kind of sustainability, technology. Some of the more interesting titles for this are How Can a Pickled Cucumber Shape the Future Worker?
So what?
Yeah. And so what if Melbourne was underwater?
So like Melbourne Atlantis?
Yeah, Melbourne Atlantis. How would that?
Because then we would never be found. I'd much
Yeah.
rather more. I'd much rather exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if we did have Melbourne Atlantis, would they have completed the Sandringham line replacement?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. So there's another. Melbourne City DNA is this virtual reality 3D projection of how Melbourne might be in the future. So that's
Interesting.
at the Hub Centre, I believe, which is the meat market. And then there's even more immersive, actually. There's one step further. There's a prototype street, which is a working prototype of a future Melbourne street with 5G capabilities, future street lighting, and even sustainable transport.
Yeah.
Future.
Well, it looks like Fifth Element because I'm so down for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. There's lots more info on the website, all sorts of things going on there. So yeah, definitely check it out. The next event that we have going on is Casino Royale in concert. So this is happening at the Hamer Hall tomorrow and Friday evening at 7:30. And so it's a screening of the James Bond film Casino Royale starring Daniel Craig. And so the score is going to be played live by the MSO.
It's an incredible. It has an incredible soundtrack.
Yeah,
Incredible soundtrack.
The score is written by David Arnold, who wrote the score for Sherlock, I believe, as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
The
Probably my favorite show on television.
Sherlock.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. How do you find the Sherlock ending compared to the Game of Thrones one?
I don't want to compare.
Don't want to compare.
I don't want to give away my feelings towards these two.
Yeah, because I heard a lot of people were pretty dissatisfied with the ending for that one as well, weren't they? So it runs for about 3 hours, but there is also a pre-concert talk about the music used in the film by some film experts, which will be really interesting actually to analyse the kind of way that people compose music. And this is actually a thing that the MSO do regularly. So in the past they've done Harry Potter films, they've done Star Wars, which have been so epic with the big like brass section and everything.
Yeah.
What's your favourite Bond film?
That's a very large question.
Yeah.
I'd probably say GoldenEye, just because
GoldenEye?
one of the ones that I saw first.
Yeah. I quite liked Skyfall because it had all that Scotland kind of scenery. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can book for this via the MSO website and yeah, it should be great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
sounds
Lakshmi.
amazing.
Now, guys, unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at OffTheRecordLT, and watch episodes on our Facebook and YouTube channel, Upstart Magazine. Hope you guys have an amazing day. I'm Ashley Dryhouse.
And I'm Sophie
We'll
Evans.
see you next time.
Bye for now.